and then all of a sudden here you are. So it's fantastic to see you today. Welcome to, let's see, April 28th to the live and unscripted for Smear the Fair. I am really excited to be here today. One, because I feel better today than I did yesterday. And so I'm glad this is happening today. and because it's just another amazing day. The sun is shining where we're at. There's blue sky, a little bit of a breeze, big surprise. And some really cool topic for conversation today. And what I like about it is in the theme of staying real, we're actually going to use my assessment as well as my beautiful wife Shaunie's assessment for our topic of discussion today. So let's get started how we usually get started and take that first just couple of minutes to get really present right here, right now, where we can come into a place of peace, a place of love, a place of calm and serenity where you can make really great decisions versus decisions made out of anxiety and pressure and stress, and you're going to cause a whole lot less, my words, of collateral damage when you come from this place. Also, when you're in this space of here and now, you're able to really soak in, slow down, soak in the information that is being shared, and allow your heart and your gut and your mind to pull in the pieces that will best serve you today. So this is what we're going to do just basic box breathing today, which is 4 counts in breathing, 4 counts out, 4 counts hold. Oh, I just said that wrong. 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out, 4 counts hold. You can do it on whatever count works for you. That's just what I use for example. So I usually breathe in on a 5 count. If a 4 works for you or a 3 works for you, just so you're breathing deeper and slower than you would normally breathe. So let's do an example. It's going to look like this. In for a 4 through your nose, holding that count for the same count, and then breathing out for 4 and holding the exhale. I'm going to ask you to repeat that for the next minute, which should be about 4 cycles. As you do this, I'm going to invite you to do it with either eyes closed or a downward gaze, whichever one feels most comfortable for you. Again, just to help facilitate bringing you to the here and now, letting go of the morning, letting go of what you think the rest of the day is going to be like, and just joining Jessica and I right here, right now. So let's do that together. Downward gaze or closed eyes. And go ahead and start those 4 patterns on your own. Good. Go ahead and finish up one last pattern. Now, there are a lot more health benefits that come along with focused breathing, especially by way of heart rate coherence, pH balance in your body, being able to bring in emotions that are regenerating and releasing and letting go of emotions that are degenerative, and really, again, putting you in that space where you can be present with yourself, where you can make decisions, where you can hear your own voice, where you can be who you really are. It takes just those quiet moments of getting connected with you. All right, we're going to ramp it back up here. I'm so excited. We're going to bring Jessica on the screen. So what I did, first of all, as I bring her on, I just want to give a huge thank you to her, because on the 16th, we were going to do this, and I totally spaced it. I can be a superhuman, but I recognize I am not that superhuman. I thought I could do this before I do the Spitfire, and indeed I couldn't. So Jessica, thank you for rescheduling and being so gracious about that. So what we're doing today is, last time I had Jessica here, we talked about personality assessments and understanding, one, our own personality and our strengths and some of the weaknesses that come along with that, how we interact with people, how we hear other people, how we see the world. and then also understanding the people around you, your spouse, your kids, your coworkers, potential clients, potential employees. There's a lot of ways that you can use this information. And so Jessica agreed to come back and do the DISC assessment. But the really cool thing is, and a bit vulnerable thing is, I took the assessment, as did my beautiful wife, Shaunie, and we're going to use the two of us and maybe Jessica today as the guinea pig examples. So Jessica, welcome back.
Thank you. Well, this is one of my favorite, besides real estate, this is about my favorite thing to talk about. And then after that, with nosy neighbors being business, so this honestly and truly probably has been the thing that impacted my business as well as my life more than anything else. So I just am so glad to talk about it with anybody who is interested in it. I have yet to find someone who didn't learn about this that didn't say it was something very, very impactful for them. And it's fun to talk about how you and someone else is close with, how that works, because the examples are very easy to then to go, oh, I see how that works. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So before we really dive into this, how did you become interested in this kind of stuff, and or stumble across it, or just like, how did it come to be a part of this, one of the funnest things that you like to do?
Well, I was the team leader or the CEO of Keller Williams Realty East Idaho, and for a while Keller Williams Realty El Paso, Texas. And Keller Williams teaches this a lot, and really makes us a big part of their curriculum, because everything in life is sales. I mean, real estate is, but everything in life is sales. And when I say sales, that means that you've got to get people on board with you. You've got to get people, when you need to accomplish something, you need to get people on board. And most of the time we run into people who are like, we just didn't click, right? We're just not clicking. We just can't seem to mesh. We can't seem to get on the same page, or I can't get them to understand what I'm saying, or I can't understand what they're saying. Well, personalities is really where that begins. And so Keller Williams has us understand this, because we move it to hiring. When you're going to try to, in real estate, we build teams. Naturally, as you grow and you become more successful as a real estate agent, you can't keep doing everything, or your customer service suffers. If you're a single agent and you want to grow, you got to give something up. And you can't give up accomplishing the tasks in a real estate transaction for being a better relationship person, because the tasks have to get done. So they talk about how people that get into real estate generally are people-oriented people, and then they're thrown into doing tasks.
Things they don't like to do,
they don't like to do, but have to be done, right?
Right.
But they become successful for their relationships with people. But then they've got to do the tasks. So the idea is, there's a point when you start to leverage the things that don't make you money, because you're not good at them. And they keep you away from the things that do make you money, which means going and finding more business. So they said, okay, well, why don't you understand yourself and realize, what do I like to do? Because the things I like to do, I get energy from.
Right.
I can do 24/7. It doesn't feel like work.
Right.
And then what are the things that take energy that I have to do, but I'm tired and I don't feel, like I get burnout.
Right. It goes back to those regenerative and degenerative emotions and energies.
Exactly right. Every
What's going to build
you,
going to tear you down.
Yep, exactly right. So what we do then, is we start to understand ourselves, and we go, okay, so what does that mean? And then you go, okay, I am someone who likes people, and I like to move fast. I'm kind of an initiator. Well, that means I am not is a follow-througher. Great at ideas, great at big picture, great at people, really not so great at the step-by-steps, making it systematic, following the system, being structured, not so great at that. I can do it, but yeah, and I imagine we're tired at the end of the day of it. Now, Shaunie, she can do it all day long. And she's
good at it.
She's good at it. You want to change every day. Shaunie wants to get good at what she does, not change it every day, if I'm right. So that idea, then we say we need to hire leverage. Well, why don't we leverage the things that need to get done that I'm not good at, so I can stay good at this? And instead of saying, I'm going to focus on my weaknesses, we say, why don't I focus on my strengths?
Right.
And I
love that you said that, because so often I feel like in a place that I worked, they're like, let's set some goals. Let's set some goals based off of the things that you're weaker in. And I'm like, why would you not want me to help build my strengths when you are the piece that does the weaker parts of me better? And as a team, we become stronger. So I appreciate you saying that it really is powerful and regenerating to work in our strengths, because eventually those weaknesses will either, in my opinion, they'll go up, or we'll find someone to help fill that in.
It's so true. And imagine what you accomplish when you stick to your strengths, but then appreciate the person you work with that is sticking to their strengths. And most of the time, what will happen is there will be this. When they are like that and you are like this, you don't understand each other. And so you want to run and run and run. And they're like, hold on, make a plan. And you're both like, oh, why are they making my job so hard? And you realize that's not what you're trying to do. You are innately doing it because what's natural and comfortable for you is not what's natural and comfortable for them. So then, but this idea of where this comes is we hire, and then that appreciation, and we have to realize, but then we have to change. Because I don't know about you, I've tried to change my husband.
No,
not so great. It
doesn't work so well.
It doesn't go well. But if I understand who I am and who he is, and I lean a little bit in the compromise more to, I realize what I'm doing to irritate him, I'll get what I want when he's actually wanting to be on board with me. When he actually wants to spend time and work with me, then he will generally help me get to my plan. It's when he doesn't want to work with me because I'm trying to be me, that really irritates him. Anyway, so it's that whole focus. And then we start to go, oh my word, could I hire someone who doesn't just do the job well, loves the job? Loves the job like I love the parts of my business or job that I have. I love it. What if I could find someone who loves those tasks like I love my tasks? What could we possibly do together at that point? That's kind of the foundation.
Magic. It's magic.
Yeah. Our problem is we tend to hire or go and be not attracted, but we're gravitating toward people like us.
Yes.
Because it's easy to understand them. And we can see each other hanging out on the weekends. This is especially for people like us. Right. We can see ourselves hanging out with them. They move fast. I like to move fast. So we gravitate toward them. Well, guess what? If we hire them or we get in a team with them and we both like the same kind of tasks and we both don't like the same kind of tasks,
those ones are now in a garbage can.
Yes. We are just creating more of a tornado chaos than before. But but what the problem is we liked them. And the problem is we hire people we like instead of people that are the right ones for the job, and then realize we need to appreciate the people that may not like us. That's generally my thing. You're not so much, because you're, after seeing this, everyone likes you. People don't all like me because I'm a type A personality and I'm very direct and task oriented sometimes.
Right.
So when you work for me, sometimes I'm like this and feelings don't matter. And that hurts the people who have feelings.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the other piece about this that I find beautiful and fascinating, is that when we know what another person in, like we're using workspace or families, when we understand that that's how they work, that, we can greet them in a different way, or we recognize that their greeting, which may feel cold to us, was like actually really awesome for them. And to not have our feelings hurt or take things so personal when it doesn't always come in the way that feels good for us or that we understand. And I think that piece is super powerful when we can get a hold of it.
Well, when you start to understand, when you understand others, your feelings will not get hurt as fast, because you go, they're not trying to make me mad. They're not trying to hurt my feelings. High C personalities, which Shaunie has a lot of, they're not trying to make suggestions that feel like criticisms.
Yeah, or always questioning. Always questioning.
They're them and their ideas, and I've made a plan and they just thought of this stuff on the spot and somehow think that I didn't think of that before. And now they're you get those internal feelings My husband's mantra is, "Don't you think I thought of that?" Well, I mean, yeah, and he's like, "Your idea is that was 2 weeks ago. I thought that 2 weeks ago, and so he gets irritated with me criticizing his ideas when really I'm just spitballing. Great, I thought we were throwing ideas out here, and he's like, "I brought my idea to you fully formed," and I'm like,
I'll say to Shaunie, I have it covered. Like I have that all covered. Like I know you don't know that I have it covered because I've been doing it long enough now. It's covered.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
Like you can go over there and do your thing. Let me handle this.
Yeah. And she probably is like, "I don't know if you have it covered. I think you're winging it. I think you're winging it."
Well, because the reality is I can wing things really well.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I've been thrown into the situations where you have to wing things.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, there is some validity to her feelings.
Yeah. It is because her personality will naturally say, "Okay, tell me your step by steps." And you're like,
yes. And I'm like, stop questioning me.
Step by step, we take a step and then we see what happens and we deal with it.
Right? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. And she's like, "Then you don't have everything under control."
Yes.
Right? Yes. Well, that is it. And so in that situation is we say, "Well, you don't need to have it all under control." And they're like, their head explodes. And that's when we can't understand. That's the beautiful example of I can't understand. So let's try to share my screen. Let me see if I can give you a visual of it.
All right, let's see. So as far as that perfectionistic thing goes, that used to be my life. And I very much had to learn how to sidestep that so that I could live a happier, healthy life. But I still find that sneaking in. So I think when she or anyone who does questioning like that, I'm like, yeah.
It's interesting you say that because when I'll talk about yours and you don't do that in your everyday life. It comes in the crisis mode or when you're in stress or when it's like, I've got to get it done. Otherwise, you might be able to kind of let things go. But when you're like, I am getting this done, you are, and it actually shows up in your behavioral side.
And it also shows up like if I am planning an event or I'm wanting to put something out there, that perfectionism will want to creep in. I'm like, you just have to put it out there, Jen. Yep. Something is better than nothing. Okay, let's see if I can show this on the screen.
I think I've got it. Let me try this. Let me try.
Okay. I'm gonna have to see. I'll put it up and see what happens.
Okay, I shared something.
Yep, I see it there.
Is now presented in broad. Hello.
I don't know that it will be big enough that we can make it big enough for them to see, though.
All right, I'll use this as a kind of a guide. So as you can see here, this is like going to the eye doctor test. Can you see this is a D and a C and an S and an I? So in this, when you look at this chart, the D, the I, the F, I'm using my mouse. You probably can't see my mouse.
I can't see your mouse.
Okay, in the upper right, there's a D. Upper left is an I. Lower left is an S. Lower right is a C.
Okay.
So the DCs are on the right. They are task-oriented people.
These over here.
Over here, yep, on the right, DC, task-oriented. On the left, the IS, they are people-oriented people. So that's the most important thing to them. DCs have to accomplish a task.
Quick question.
Have to make the people feel good.
Quick question. Is there a way when we're done with this conversation that we could share this or somewhat we'll figure that out so that you who are listening can have access to this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We can put in the chat or this of the thing. We can put even a link to where they can take the assessment for free, and then also where some videos are. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
So in this, as we look at this, you've got your task-oriented and your people-oriented. And then along the top, the D's and the I's, they are fast movers. They talk fast. They move fast. They like change, right? They like a lot of chaos and fast moving. But your S's and your C's along the bottom, they're slow moving. They're more, let's think about it. Let's make a plan. Let's gather more information. Let's make it right. Take some time versus just go, go, go. So when we look at those combinations, everybody's a combination of all four. But if when you decide what is your style, or when you take the assessment and you figure out what it is that you're comfortable in, you'll find out you gravitate toward one or more of the other ones. What is interesting for you is on your chart, Jen, is your I, which is your influencer. So if you look at I on the chart, you're a fast moving, people-oriented person. Fast moving and people oriented, right? So you're in that mode of let's get it done, let's get it moving, let's get it, those kind of things. So you're high I, but Jen is a high S. Shaunie is a high S. So she's also people oriented, but she's a slow mover.
It's so evident even in our physical natures.
Yeah. Yep. And so it is one of those things where if she is a slow mover, it means more, not necessarily, it just means she wants to take the time.
Yes.
Take the time to decide that it is going to be okay, and decide that it's gonna that there's a plan, that everyone gets taken care of, because she's people oriented. Yes. So when she's people oriented, she wants everyone to be taken care of. And when you don't have a plan, someone might be left out, or things won't be delivered. It's not a quality product. Right? And so
that defines her or describes her.
Yeah. Yeah. And so she'll sometimes get real upset with you because you're winging it. But you're like, but it's okay, because if everybody has fun, we'll be okay.
Right. Well, and in my mind, I'm like, I can keep track of people. I'm people oriented, but I just see that differently.
Yes. And so in that, when we're looking at this, I am a DI. So I like people, but I also like a task. And I'm a little higher D than I am an I. And so I'm a direct, I'm dominant, I'm assertive, but I also like people to have fun. And I'm an influencer, so that influencer type of personality. The problem is I'm generally trying to influence you to do what I want.
Right.
You and Shaunie are influencing people to have a good time and to be taken care of. I'm doing it more for evil, and you're doing it more for good.
We would make a great team.
If I would just use my powers for good instead of evil, things would be okay. But that idea that D wants a challenge, wants dominance. And it really comes back to a caveman brain. In a caveman world, in the world of a village, all of these personalities are essential. They're essential, because everyone's
I just saw the Croods.
Yes, the Croods.
Or you die.
That's right. Or you die. I'm a little worried that that poor, what's his name, Crude, is an S, because it's like, don't change anything. Never not be afraid. So he's probably an SC saying, hey, we don't know what's out there. We don't need to change. I can see how everything is going to go wrong. So an S person who wants everyone taken care of, and a C person that can see all the incorrectness and all the things that are wrong, right? That SC personality. And so in that, you've got that DI personality, which is kind of the conqueror, the one that says, hey, let's fight whatever's out there. We can do it. Let's go out into the wilderness and fight, because they're the first ones through the door. They will make decisions quickly. Yes. They'll make those decisions quickly, and they'll be confident in them. In fact, they'll fight to the death over them. These are the kind of go ahead.
Yeah, question about that. Making those decisions quickly and confidently. Is it because they're not afraid of the outcome, and they're not afraid to have a fumble, because they recognize, maybe not completely, but they recognize that it's just a decision. It's not inherent to who they are or their value or their worth.
And because
is that part of that personality?
They're fast moving. They're like, once we start, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
But they're confident that they can. Because they don't doubt themselves like others doubt. Like S's and C's are information gatherers. So they have all this information. These are not information gatherers. I'm using what I know in my gut, and I'm going to make a decision. But the village needs them, because the village, if they run out of water, has to move. Someone has to grab that spear and go out and find a new location and fight the saber-toothed tigers off to find one. And everyone else is a little worried about what's going to happen. And these are like, let's just fight it as it comes.
Yeah, got this.
got this. But they're really not concerned whether the village makes it or not, because they think the weak ones probably should be killed off anyway. That's the one problem with D's. They're probably slowing us down. Anyway, let's hope that the sick ones get taken along the way, right? That's a D.
Yeah. Well, it's not even, I would imagine it's not a malicious thing either. No. It's just like, it's about survival, and it's about getting out it's about survival.
It is what it is.
Yep.
It is what it is. This is the way it works. If we're going to survive and we're going to thrive, then we must realize there are going to be sacrifices to be made.
Gotcha.
That's the way it works. And if you're too weak not to survive, the problem with D's is they're natural leaders because they're decisive. They'll make the decision, but they're not good leaders. Again, because they're not people oriented.
Because they don't see the other side.
They don't necessarily care. They want to win. They want challenge. They want to win, but they don't care if everyone survives the game. Right? So that they naturally take charge, but they aren't always good leaders. And that's where the counterbalance comes. So if you move across and you're an I is a fast mover. They like to go. They like to get started. They like to do things. Problem is that they're people oriented instead of task oriented. That's when it comes into, do you have a plan? Do you know what's going on? Are you in the room just because there was a bunch of people here, so you thought you'd join the party? That's an I, right? We're like, I'm the spirit. Yeah. I'm the influencer, the cheerleaders. And they're just like, no, as long as everyone's having a good time, that's a win, right? I call them the butterfly chasers. They're going to chase a butterfly down whatever path the other people are going down because it looks like a good time. But they're the ones that keep everybody excited.
Love it.
Yeah, these are the ones that if you didn't have it, everybody would be miserable because they like everybody and they want everyone to like them, and they make up a cheer or a song to march to their death, right? They're the ones that are bringing that spirit up because they're naturally optimistic, which is where you come into it, right?
I think so.
Yeah, you're naturally optimistic.
Yes. I may struggle with the I parts of personality a little bit because I in the past have seen them as like airy fairy, kind of hard to relate to, just always, head in the clouds, which there's nothing wrong with that. I actually love that about them. Sometimes I don't exactly always know how to relate to that, but I love that they can bring those pieces out of me.
Yeah. So what's interesting is you generally approach your life with that people-oriented mentality. But when you look at your charts, there's 3 charts across there. The middle chart shows kind of your innate core. If you didn't have to adapt to feel what you needed to do to be successful or in what is best for you in life, you would become more like your middle chart, your core. And actually your S and your C and I are all the same level.
They're the same.
Yes. And we actually call
that interesting? I don't know if they can see this.
Yes, there it is.
Right there.
So those
that's my
actually
D,
all line up.
And those 3.
Yep. So that's where you say, oh, no, I've got this. You might probably have plans. You probably do have plans because that S and that C who are planners, that's actually naturally okay with you. You don't do it like that all the time because you're like, it's a little slow. It slows me down. I need to get moving. I need to start it, right? So then you naturally talk those down.
It's like, how do you get motivation? You just start moving and then the motivation comes. Motivation just doesn't happen. You got to start the wheel and then, Yes.
Yep. Which means you are great at getting the group moving as well. You're the guy, you're the person that goes, I can motivate the group to get going. And so that you feel like is more of what you do naturally every day, but you are a planner in the back. When you're in crisis, like you said, when you're planning and there are CNS, which is plan and make it right. That's as important to you in the innate world as the people are. So that will come up and you'll still be comfortable in that. In fact, being like that SC and I, when you're comfortable in all 3, we call that the silent D. Someone may say, I think you're a D. And you're like, no, I'm not a D. No, you seem like a D. Because you're like this, let's go. We're going to get this done, right?
Well,
but the reason, go ahead. The reason you're not a real true D is because you care about people.
I'm actually loving this explanation because, you know, I look at this and I didn't, for those of you listening, I just glanced at this. I had no idea what it was. Um, and even when I was taking this assessment questions, which I really liked because it didn't take forever. I still didn't like the question, the wording, and having to choose and all of those things. I even said, I hate these things because I go, I'm all of those. Like I innately feel all of them. So choosing, I'm like, I don't know how to choose this. And so you just explaining that the way that you did, I'm like, yep,
Yeah.
that feels right.
Yep. You can adapt in pretty much everything except for win at all costs and kill the people along the way.
Yeah, that I would struggle
Yeah.
with.
Yeah, you would struggle with that idea of to the top, leave the trail of blood behind. That's fine.
Yeah, that's why I don't apply for Survivor.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Right. You're not going to go and win at all costs. You would rather see the whole group achieve.
Yes.
And you'll take the
Well,
lead to do it.
yes, because
Yeah.
in my mind, if the whole group achieves, then we individually have like reached like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A D does not feel that way. But someone who has SC, there needs to be one winner, one survivor. That's how a D truly feels. You know, if you're at second place, you're the first loser. That's the D's innate feeling. Because there's something
Gotcha.
in this that needs that challenge. And there's actually the least amount of D's of any personality type in the mixture of the world. There's only 3% that really feel that
Really?
way. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Thank goodness. The Lord kills off every D for one that is born just to keep the world in balance and so we don't go to war every day. Yeah. So
That makes
but
sense.
yeah, it does. It really does. Because no one really enjoys a D unless you've got some I in there or another letter. And especially that no one enjoys a DC because they're all task oriented and it does not feel good in any way, right? They have to struggle to have good relationships. But if you're a D and you've got a little bit something else in there, you can probably survive. But that silent D is someone who is willing to take charge, but they get everybody together in a group on a teamwork. They're excellent team leaders. Excellent. Because they're good listeners, because they've got the S. They're good talkers. They're willing to stand up in front of people. That's the I. They are goal oriented. That's the D, right? I mean, so it looks like a D, but that C is we're going to get it right. So you put the I, S, and C all together, and people go, you might be a D, but not quite. So it's really cool that way. What's interesting
That's
is also that
amazing.
Shaunie is also a silent D. So I imagine you guys have some
That's fascinating.
who's going to be in charge and whose way is the right way.
Oh my gosh. See, so just so you know, you as in you who's listening to us today, P.S. Jessica and I have never met in person. This is our second conversation. Like, okay, it's our third. Our first one, we're like, hey, I saw you with this thing. I really would like to get to know you. Will you come on my show? And she's like, hey, I have this assessment. And guess what? She is nailing it because she has some practice. And yes, and that's been one of our personal struggles inside of our relationship is the way she comes at telling me that that she isn't in control is a domineering dictator. And I'm like, I'm not. That's not who I am. But how she comes off, it shows like that. Are we frozen?
I think I can still see you.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's
There
and
you
that's
go.
totally the case. But the understanding now is because she is an SCI, you are an ISC, right? You both have both of those strengths, and she's more committed to it than you are. Yours go along that line, but they're a little closer to that middle line. She's a little higher up on those dots. So she's a little
Gotcha.
more committed, especially to the S. The S doesn't like change because they like security. They like to be systematic. They're steady. They don't want to change until they understand the reasoning. Well, you want to move a little faster because that I is in there. And so you're like, I thought of this, but I didn't say it all out loud. I just want her to go along with me because I did think about it. And she's like, well, until you give more information, I'm not getting on that train. And then it's
Right.
like, we just got to go. And so in that, when you're leaving those, you're both going to be as committed to your way because you both want to understand it. Now, the thing is, if you're both on the same track, it's going to be beautiful. It's when you're not on the same track, or because you're also both high C's, you believe your way is right and you don't really want to have to explain that. But you know it's right because C's are compliance oriented and correctness oriented. So they don't just toss stuff out there. They believe in correctness. Then they're feeling that you're questioning them and you're feeling a little attacked.
Yes.
Because, I mean, don't you trust that I would have planned this out and I can do this the right way?
We may have some of that going on.
Yeah. But the thing is, you're both feeling that way. So if you're not on the same track, it can feel very hard because you're both idealistic.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing is we're learning, but it's a road.
Yeah. And if you'll both go, okay, I'm pretty sure if I can give the other one enough information, she'll probably get on track with me. And then we're going on the same one together. Awesome. But the thing is, you've both got to go together.
I'm digging your heels to give the information.
Yeah. And most of the time it's because you've waited too long to share it.
Yeah. Yes. I would say yes to that.
Yeah. Because you in high C's formulate in their mind rather than verbally. S's tend to want to put it out and put this checklist and the steps together. And I's can fly. And I's, they can just go, right? The speed comes there. So
that's so funny. I leave the house and I go somewhere and Shaunie's like, do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? I'm like, of course I have this.
Of course I do. Don't you think I thought of that?
Yeah. And the few times I get down the road and I'm like, wow, I'm really glad you asked me if I had that.
Yep. That's because that is your C going, of course, I'm insulted that you are criticizing me.
Yes.
And she's going, yeah, but let's look at the history. And you probably did forget something because you got a lot of I, which means let's go. And so she's like, I'm just trying to help you and you're resisting me. But yet, and so all of this is going through both of your minds.
Right.
Innately, right? And so when you start to go, she's asking me to help me, is when you start to go, and she's going, if she can start going, she's resisting because she did think of things before. And I'm kind of saying you didn't think of things before.
Yeah.
And so we give a little bit on each side.
And that's the piece right there. It's not even that you have to completely give in. You just go, you go back to that, like, okay, I have a different understanding. I can shift a little, and that makes that huge difference.
Yeah. I call it appreciating the other person. I appreciate that she tries to get me out the door with the stuff I need. And she appreciates blah, 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 right? That appreciation that without that, if I just slow my roll and I look at appreciating that other person's contribution, which is different than my contribution, my life will be a lot better. I'm a high D, so I have to appreciate when my S's try to help me think through the plan. Because I don't like that. Yes. I don't like doing it. I don't like it. But I have to appreciate that because I know they'll catch things I wouldn't catch that I would have just winging it. And it's not nearly as good. I don't say that out loud because I'm a D and I don't say stuff out loud that would make it look like I'm not competent. But I know that. And so my understanding that the problem we end is we want to wait for the other side to lean in. But we can't control that other side. All that we can do is us lean in. Right. But what's great about S's, which is 69% of the population, as soon as we lean a little, they will lean a lot because they love to help. They love it. Shaunie probably loves to help people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, gets energy from
it. Absolutely. And I do too, but she even has it to a different level than I do. And some of that could come from like understanding weaknesses in my patterns and why I do things. Like I did things before to obtain worth and value and appreciation. And now I do them. Now I don't need that in order to be, I've learned myself enough that I can give that stuff to myself. And now I do it because I want to. Now let's be real. I'm human. I still wear skin. And sometimes I do things because the appreciation does feel good. Yeah. And having that little boost of, oh, you're so amazing. That feels good. Let's be real. Yeah. But I don't have to do it for that reason. So it's kind of interesting to watch watch her do things. And I love it. I love how she loves people. And sometimes it drives me crazy.
Well, your eye, one of the motivating factors, you're motivated by recognition and flattery. And you're not
Yes.
motivated from ego. Recognition and flattery is because you love it when everybody claps for everybody else. Do you start the applause if no one else is clapping and you get everybody on board with it? Come on, guys, let's clap. They did a great job. The eye.
So let me share this with you, because this is one of the, that we did a little Nosy Neighbor on the Spitfire. We just had it a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
And our finishing award is a bell. It took me quite a few years to figure out what my finishing award was going to be. Not a medal. Everyone has so many medals. And I'm like, when you trail race, there's a lot of times in trail races, like off in the distance, you start hearing a cowbell. And I'll tell you what, when you've been running out there in nature, which is amazing for a long time by yourself, that cowbell, it's like the most heavenly sound. And because people are near, and there's going to be energy and food and refilling, soul filling and belly filling, and giving you that next boost of energy to go to the next aid station, which could be 10 miles away.
Oh.
And so I started giving a bell. And this is the dang coolest thing, is people have started catching on. And I clap and I cheer people in, and there's a couple bells ringing. And then as more and more people come in, as someone comes in, you hear the entire place ringing bells. It is the damn coolest thing ever.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So
yeah. That cheerleading, that is your eye. You get your cup filled. Like when you were saying that, I was so excited when there's people there and I get filled, because that's what eyes do. They get filled with other success, with others cheering each other on, with it's that fun, it's that inspiration. That's why eyes, that's what makes things with having them around is so great, because they fill everyone with enthusiasm to achieve and to go and to keep going. And so they clap a lot. They love it. When you say, I'd like to get recognized, that's awesome. And so what if Shaunie will understand your need for that? And most of the time you want to be recognized, and then you turn around and recognize them right back. If someone says, you did a great job, you go, you did a great job. I love it. Your shoes are cute. Your shoes are cute. Eyes do that. They give it back. They don't just take it. These take, because it's ego.
Well,
eyes
and I think too, I have learned to pause. So when I was performing a lot, I thought, why am I performing? What is it that I like about it? Can I do this just as a gift for people? Or do I need the recognition and the applause afterwards, all of the kudos afterwards? So I put myself through a practice where I would sing and then I would leave the building, so that there might be initial applause afterwards, depending on where I was performing. Some places there's not applause. And then you leave the building and you decide, am I okay?
Yeah.
Can I give myself the kudos that I need? But then to step back in and accept the applause and accept the praise and just say, thank you.
Yeah.
Without having to give it back, to just like actually receive it.
Yeah.
Knowing that I'm going to give it out later, in other places. That was a really interesting experiment for me.
I imagine the applause, though, makes you also realize they had a good time.
Yes. And that is the piece that I recognized, is that I can give the gift, and it's okay to have the kudos as well.
Yep, because they're having fun. They wouldn't clap if they then didn't have a good time. And I was here to give them an experience.
Or that they appreciated the gift.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
Exactly right. Yeah. So and what's interesting is that when you can start to identify that, this also moves over into business. When you identify this in people you work with and you want to fill their cup, you fill it with what they want instead of filling it with what you think. So I'm a D. I like recognition in front of everyone. I want to stand up and receive the medal in front of everyone. Well, S's, they don't like that. They like genuine, specific, quiet appreciation. They want you to go to them quietly and go, man, you did a great job putting that together. Thank you. And no one around, but specific and genuine, that fills their cup. Instead of dragging them in front. If you probably drug Shaunie in front of everybody and have everybody clapping for her, you hate it. No cup filling in that point.
I have done that.
Yeah. And Shaunie, I want everyone to see what a great job you do. You deserve some clapping. And she's like, whoa, 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 not my thing, right? But a genuine gift quietly. They love teamwork. They like everyone to have a good time. All of those things. Now, also, you're both high C's, which also means you want it to be right. And so, and then you decide what is the right way. Probably really hard to get your mind shifted from that being the right way. And so, C's
I have
and
to let go a lot.
Yes, yes. Luckily, you have S and I because you want people to like you and you want to deliver. So that helps you do that. But that C is where you're going to be like, oh, I really want it my way because I know it's the right way and I can think it through and I know that's going to be right. And so C's struggle because they have planned something out. They've gathered data. And so a CD who is completely task oriented, who not only knows the right way but will be forced their way forward, those ones have the hardest time with the relationships. And so they tend to struggle a little bit there.
So, question on that comes to my mind, and this is like a genuine, honest question. I don't believe it's that I'm like tagging anyone or blanketing, stereotyping. Our friends who get to live with autism, who have autism, would they possibly rank more in like the D and C? They don't always seem to connect. Like, how does that work with a?
It's interesting to think about. So what personality isn't is intelligence and morals and nature versus nurture. It's none of that. It's just outward behavior. So what's comfortable. So somebody with autism, if they tend to want to be, they can be any of the personality types, but they'll be more committed to their personality type. Where they won't vary as much. So if they are a C, they will have a hard time without correctness and everything lining up exactly right.
Yeah. Okay, that right there. That was a really beautiful way to explain that. Thank you. Yeah. I just when I gave my TED talk, I had my eyes opened with a fellow who came up from Salt Lake who has autism, and his whole thing was about autism in the workplace and why you want to hire people with autism. And it was a beautiful presentation, and the way he described things and watching how he presented this, and I mean, very dry, very like just what we've been describing. Although I wouldn't say he was a D. So that the way you just described that fit perfectly. So thank you.
Yeah, I would imagine if that personality type fits the tasks and someone's super committed to that, they're great employees. They just sometimes cannot interact and fluctuate. They're not the ones generally that can bend to someone else to meet that, right? So you get those people that are like, I want it this way, and people have to meet them on their style because they don't have the ability to bend to everybody else because of the commitment to what's comfortable.
Yeah, and like he said, he's like, I'm not excited or driven to have a reward of a T-shirt or a reward of nachos or a reward of, like that just. And so, but again, that goes for all of us. We're not all driven to have those kinds of things as our rewards. Theirs is just more intensified.
Yes.
That makes sense.
I would struggle with somebody who has autism as a high D because I'm a little worried what that would be like.
That would. Oh boy.
Yeah, it's that idea of challenge constantly. And
I'm going to keep my thoughts to myself on that one.
So anyway, well, I hope that this kind of gives an idea, but it's a really cool way to say, okay, I'm going to understand me. And you have to go back to it. I mean, I've probably taught this class. When I teach it, it's about an hour and a half. We talk about examples. We go really deep into each one and then how do they combine. But the idea is as you study it and you start to identify what type of person that is, well, then if you can maneuver yourself to adapt more to that, you're going to find those connections and you're going to find your communication gets better. You're going to find that those things happen. But if you will move that way, it's crazy.
Well, and so let's make this really clear. It's not about changing yourself to be somebody else or a different type. It's about understanding and being willing to, like you say, to move a little bit in that direction so that there's better connection, communication, cohesion.
Well, make the person on the other side more comfortable. Because when you aren't that way, it's an energy sucker. Like I'm super dominant, right? And I'm super talky and I'm loud and I'm fast. So for an SC, that is an energy taker for them.
They're like,
they are exhausted after 5 minutes with me, right? My questions, am I demanding, am I pointing, am I, yelling and all of these kind of things. So I'm not going to change and become an SC. I'm just going to go, okay, for them to have a better experience with me, I'm going to talk slower. I'm going to back up. I'm going to take longer pauses for them to realize they can contribute, because they're never going to interrupt me. And I'm going to talk the entire time. So I do those things not because I'm trying to change or manipulate. It's because I'm trying to make their experience with me better. And I know they don't enjoy me naturally. So I'm going to just try to tamp that down a little bit. Yeah. And S or a C hardly can get a word in edgewise with me.
I love it.
But
And I love, like you say, just the recognition of ourselves and how we interact, and then consciously making the decision to just adjust, to just flow with whoever we're with, to feel them. And even though we might not be able to say, oh, this is a C or this is an S, but to just sense and feel that. We know, like I always tell people, there's a space right in front of us that if we will take just that slight action of leaning forward into it just a little bit, we can feel that other person and know how to then interact. But it takes us making that move. And it's beautiful when both people know how to do it together.
Right.
But that doesn't always happen.
No, it doesn't. And you have to be okay with that.
Right. So I have a question.
Sure.
We're talking about all of the really cool, positive things of this. But I have this question of, like, I know my personality. I've got a person or two in my world that really, really bother me. And that doesn't happen very often. Like, I am so annoyed, and I'm trying to figure out, what is the annoyance? Is it because my mind always goes to my other teachings of, like, what are they trying to teach me? What do I need to know because they're mirroring something back to me? And it's this whole idea of these particular people are people who try to be me, or it appears they're trying to be me. How do we use this tool to see those parts of ourselves? And I don't know if it's bring the weakness up or to recognize what that is. And I don't even want to say use the word correct. Do you know what can you put into words what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Well, that idea of seeing, okay, am I seeing myself in them and I'm not enjoying this?
Yes.
I'm not enjoying my interaction with myself. Is that, and so in that idea is saying, okay, what is it?
Possibly, or like, what about their personality is so rubbing mine? I don't get rubbed like that very often.
Right.
But there's a couple people that I really like. They're beautiful people, and they have a lot to offer, and I want them to be a part of the existence, but it's like getting them in the right place so that, one, we don't rub, but I can use, not that I can use, so that their talents can be used in good ways.
Yeah.
Without me being
like,
stop trying to be me.
It starts to come where I step back to that appreciation. Can I get to appreciation of what they are and what they're trying to do, and what is it that what is it that they are trying to do in interaction with me? What are they trying to do to get what they're trying to get some way and make a connection with me? And it may rub me the wrong way because either I don't see value in it, or I think I made some assumptions about why they're doing it. And so it comes back and I go, okay, but what's their personality? Most of the time, this is I personalities that it's a hot feeling when you interact with them because they're just really, really there. Their interactions are so fast and people oriented. And sometimes people go, I don't know, this is too much relationship and not enough task. And so it can feel that way. Or if you've got someone who is so convinced that they're right, and so they're pushing it in there, but what they're trying to do is say, I think this is right. And you go, okay, they're trying to get correctness. You'll find when you interact with them, if you'll think about what they're trying to do, is it about having a relationship with you, or is it about trying to get something accomplished? If you go, okay, I see what they're trying to do. Now let me see if I can give them some validation, and it may back them off from that. I really like you, man. I sure appreciate that you are always bringing the spirit up. I really like you. And they just like, oh, that is amazing. And then give them a path to go in and spread that somewhere else. The nice thing about I's is I's like a lot of shallow relationships. S is like less deep and less relationships, but deeper ones, right?
Yes.
So someone who feels really, really too much might just be that I personality and they just need it directed, but they want to see that you like them. They can't give up until they see that you like them, because that rejection is a little hard for them because they're people oriented.
Fascinating. It's fascinating. Yeah. And I definitely have some work to do there.
Yeah, we all do. Every one of us do. I mean, yeah. I've taught this for 8 years and I still sometimes go, criminy, that did not go. I did not do a good job in that, really, right? Because I go innately. I moved especially when I move fast or I've got to accomplish, we call it D-Day. When I'm having a D-Day, which means it's accomplished today, that means feelings, schmealings. When I know that's not going to get me what I want, but sometimes there's a D-Day and everybody, and there's blood on the floor and everybody, have you ever seen The Devil Wears Prada?
Yes.
Okay. So when Stanley Tucci types to everyone that, the witch is on her broom, or gird up your loins. That's sometimes what happens when people are like, oh crap, it's D-Day. Gird up your loins. She's on one today. And it's just, I am accomplishing and not, we all do it. So sure. It just, we have to keep trying the best we can all the time.
Yeah. I love it. Oh my gosh. This has been so much fun. Thank you for taking the time in your life to find this, to study it, and then to have the passion and the desire to share it, to help the rest of us out there to understand ourselves. One, so that we then have better relationships in our families and we have better relationships in our workspaces, because we spend a lot of time in our workspaces and with those work family relationships. And what a beautiful thing when we know how to do that dance instead of just pushing and saying, dance with me, dance with me. We have that give and take, and we create that
really
beautiful
more
emotion.
About me. As we know, this is always about me. And if I can get more people to understand that I am a certain way, so don't think that I'm trying to kill everybody, it helps me. So again, once again, there shows the D again, that I do this because D's need it.
So. We all need it, sister. So thank you again. And we'll make sure that you have, Jessica will send me a link and I'll make sure it gets in the comments so that you too, if you want to, can take the assessment. Mm-hmm. And if we have enough interest, Jessica and I actually haven't talked about this, but we will. If we have enough interest and you want to actually have a class, Jess, would that be something that you'd be interested in doing? Okay.
I'm in real estate. The only way I find business is talking to people. So I love to get a group of people in a room and go, hey, anybody want to buy a house? I'll teach a class too.
Awesome. So if you want to know more about the DISC assessment or personalities in general, or how to know yourself better in this really simple way, reach out. Just send me an email and I will start making, as soon as we have, I'm going to say 10 people. What's your number? Is 10 enough?
10's enough. And if you want to take this, you got to bring somebody. And you got to bring someone you're close with, because that's where this really, really, if I can look at Shaunie's and I can look at Jen's, I can get you to start really seeing how it works. Alone, if you don't know everybody, it's hard to go, oh, she is like that. Usually we got to have at least 1 or 2 D's. And everybody goes, oh, she is so like that. So that's but as long as you'll get committed to bringing someone close to you all day long, I'll teach it to anybody.
Perfect. So I'll get the details put together. They're already formulating. We'll get them out there in a way that you can understand them, and then we'll make this happen. So Jessica and I will talk later. You guys, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for the time you put into yourselves to understand yourself, so that we as individuals and together can make the world a better place. Remember, be bold, be brave, and be a rebel. We'll see you soon.